What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Early Look. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above or directly at wisetake.com if you were looking to take your DFS game to the next level. We are a DFS content provider as well as a DFS community designed to help make you a better DFS player. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe, hit notifications bell so you're notified whenever we do go live. We do all kinds of free content right here. Monday to Friday, we hit 2 shows a day for NBA, DFS. We do golf. We do, PGA. And this summer, we got baseball coming, baseball, NFL, and NBA. The main three are our main sports. So don't miss out. It's free. No reason not to subscribe. And make sure that you get in and get your free content. With that said, we do work for likes. So if you guys could hit the like button for anybody who hasn't already, it goes a long way, really helps us out, allows us to continue to do free content. And we want to continue to do it. We like to be in touch with the DFS industry, the DFS community. But in order to do that, we need to justify taking the time out to do these videos every day. And the way we justify that is by getting the likes. So hit the like button. It goes a long way, really helps us out. And like I said, it allows us to continue to do the dirty on YouTube, etc. It's going to be a quick show, right? We only got 4 games. It's kind of a weird slate. The pricing is kind of weird. Yesterday, I tell you what, I had, I think 100% Kevin Porter Jr., who obviously got hurt. I've had a lot of bad luck, right? I've had a lot of bad luck. The positive is outside of him. I ended up, I think I risked like $300 and I only lost like $50, considering I had 100% of a player that got me a 6. I was grateful. So the downside of that tells you that had I not had 100% of him, I probably would have had a pretty big night. If I was able to win back most of my money with a 6 in every one of my teams, that kind of shows you that I think we were on the right track. I just kind of went a little overboard with Kevin Porter Jr. And that was something I came on kind of late. It just struck me that, man, this dude's going to play like 40 minutes. And so I went for it. And I guess he got hurt going for a scrum. That was a weird situation, right? Like all of a sudden he didn't start out of nowhere. Then he checked in at like the 10:58 mark. So I don't know what was going on. A beat reporter did tweet me back. I asked when did he pick up this injury? And supposedly it was during like a rebound scrum. He hit his head, but something's fishy about that, right? Like what was going on in the beginning? Why did he not come out to study? To take a shit? It's possible. He's a human being. Everybody got to take a shit once in a while. But something seemed off. Either way, like I said, I thought it was going to be a really depressing night where I lost everything I put out. And instead, I won most of it back. So a losing day, but I will take it again, considering I had 100% of Kevin Porter Jr., who played very little minutes and, just sucked. It wasn't his fault. He got hurt. Hopefully he's all right. Again, trying to work on my attitude, work on my perspective of things and not be so negative. And, he's a human being. Dude got hurt. Dude couldn't play. I'm the one who played him too much. It's on me. But again, grateful to have won back what I did win back. With that said, we've got 4 games and some interesting ones. I think the headline game, of course, is looking like the ClippersRockets game. I would assume that that's going to be the most popular. It's got a very tight spread, the tightest at 1. The highest total on the board by far at 236. The next highest is 223. It's that Golden State game. So I anticipate to see a lot of ownership concentrated on that game. And it should be wild. Jim Campbell in there. Let's go Harden, Paul George. Yeah, everybody's liking that game. I feel you. I don't blame you. I think it's going to be pretty good. Definitely the most exciting game to watch, at least on paper. But let's go ahead and get into this. First up, we got Denver visiting Charlotte. We've got a 208 total, which is the lowest on the board. Makes sense because both these teams play slow. Denver -10 on the road. One thing you'll see is there's not a ton of dudes that genuinely project well. You can see on Denver, Jamal Murray, Paul Millsap did make his return last game, assuming he's in. He's kind of interesting. But as you can see, there's nobody that's projecting all that well. I'm tempted to raise Will Barton a little bit. He is playing minutes in the 30s lately. It's just he's been inefficient. So one of these days, he's just going to have that game where he smashes. It could be here. Obviously, Charlotte, not a very good defensive team on any aspect, pretty much against any position. So everyone's in play. Nikola Jokic would appear to have the best spot, being as how Charlotte's been so terrible against bigs. So I'm okay with playing Jokic, but obviously with all the other studs to pay for, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, all these other guys, it's tough to come here in a game with a 208 total where Denver's expected to win this game by double digits. With that said, I don't mind taking a shot on Jokic, though I do prefer it when Millsap is out, it seems like when everybody's healthy, Jokic just elects to kind of take it easy, which is really annoying when you're rostering him, but kind of understandable, I guess, being a team player, I guess. But Jamal Murray is certainly interesting. I think they'll need him a lot. He'll probably the closer this game stays, the more minutes he should play, as they use him to cover guys like Devontae Graham, assuming he's in, Terry Rozier, etc. But Paul Millsap, on a projection basis, looking the best on DraftKings, while Jamal Murray looking the best on FanDuel. It is a really good price for Murray. We might have to consider raising him. He's also been a little inconsistent. Hasn't been so great lately, but the minutes have been there for him, which is promising. On the Charlotte side, Devontae Graham does project well. As of right now, he projects to be one of the best on DraftKings, at least guys that are not like super value. The price obviously has come down. He is questionable, so we don't know for sure if he's going to play. But I think he missed a couple games, right? But if he does play, I mean, he's at a point where it's really, really tempting. I mean, he hasn't played particularly great recently, but we know his usage rate is typically somewhere in the mid to high 20s. He's capable of getting assists. Denver, typically a decent defensive team. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think he's more of a trap type play? Because he's going to be popular. If he plays, he's going to be popular at these prices. You think he's more of a trap, or do you think, nah, screw it, you just go do the dirty? Miles Bridges is okay, but if everybody's healthy, he'll take a little bit of a dip. Terry Rozier as well, his usage should decrease a little bit, though I don't mind him at these prices. PJ Washington had a really big game last time out. I'm not really a PJ Washington guy, so to speak. But he's been playing a lot of minutes at the 5, which has led to Cody Zeller, Bismack Biyombo, and Hernan Gomez to all kind of like split minutes with him at the 5. We'll see who starts today. They keep going back and forth between Bismack and Zeller. Whichever one does start, that's the one that seems to get at least some run. Hernan Gomez has played well. I know on a normal slate where he's projected at value-wise wouldn't be all that enticing, but on this slate, it kind of seems like it is. Let me see. Hernan Gomez, 18 minutes against the Spurs, 20 in the game before that, right? So I didn't think that like I would be getting too much of him, but in the early builds, I was getting a good amount. For sure. Let's see what else we got here. I adjusted his minutes down to 18 flat. So again, there's nothing that stands out. Guys like Jalen McDaniels, we can take shots for value on Cody Martin. But the prices have come up. There's just nothing that's looking great so far in this game outside of Devontae Graham's price. So we'll have to take a wait-and-see approach on that one. It's a 4-game slate. You might want to get different, so you might have to take some chances on some of these dudes. And you'll see it's not just this game. There's, pricing of the pricing. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Clippers visiting the Houston Rockets. We have a 237 total. Houston opened up -1. They are still at -1. Starting with the road team. Paul George, 6'9" on FanDuel, 7'4" on DraftKings. I'm interested. Kawhi Leonard projecting well for us also. So those two players I anticipate having a lot of. I anticipate having a lot of this game. I think everybody anticipates that. I think that Patrick Beverley is an interesting value play. He's got the little beef thing with Westbrook. They got a little narrative action going. If you want to buy into that. The minutes have been a little down, but this is a situation where there's two really good guards playing at all times, so they might want Beverly's defense. He's a significantly better defender than Lou Williams and Reggie Jackson, so I actually do like Pat Bev for value, especially on DraftKings at 3,600. Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, their roles have been reduced. The usage for Lou Williams is good when he's on the court, but the minutes have been a little unpredictable now that Marcus Morris is there, Reggie Jackson is there. They have different routes they can go. So again, rotating these guys in and out, Marcus Morris, Lou Williams, Montrezl, those are going to be the low-owned options from this game, even maybe Zubac. But expect Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to be two of the more popular players in the slate. And I think Pat Bev, he could end up being pretty popular as value. But he's definitely someone I'm interested in. I'd like to see the minutes increase, but we won't know until we do it because this is a situation where they might actually need his defense on the court. So if he can stay out of foul trouble, maybe he gets a little extra run, and I'm into it. But it is what it is. Paul George and Kawhi are going to get the most attention from this team. The rest of the guys, you could work them in at low ownership just to try to be a little bit different and change things up a little bit. On the Houston side, James Harden projecting really well for us as a stud at 5.78x on DraftKings. He's 11-2 on FanDuel. Props to FanDuel for raising that price up. Westbrook going to be an easier play on FanDuel at a lower price, even though Harden still projects better over there. I'm cool with getting some Westbrook shares. Again, this is a game that naturally it's going to like, even our projections are kind of pushing us towards the stack. Again, just kind of running the early builds, and I'll be tweaking the projections throughout, but I was getting a whole lot of Harden, a lot of Pat Bev, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. I wasn't getting a ton of Westbrook. That is something that I may want to change. I was getting like 20%, which isn't terrible, but you consider that just running it raw with no adjustments, I was getting like 91% Harden, 72% Kawhi, 62% George. I don't think I want to be that low. There's some narrative for him too. He does have that beef with Pat Bev. We've seen him, I think, against the Knicks. He didn't play all that well. Before that, he's been playing extremely well. So on a 4-game slate that's smaller where raw points may matter a little bit more, if we can find a way to lock in the raw points that Westbrook brings us in a marquee game, so to speak, I'm interested. PJ Tucker, obviously a value option on DraftKings if you want to go that route. This team struggles against bigs, but he's not really a big. He's like 6'5", 6'6", so not terribly interested. Robert Covington has been balling out, and I may have to increase his minutes just to kind of. I already kind of have his minutes over projected, considering there's no injury, but he's just been playing extremely well, and I don't see that really stopping. Maybe he gets into foul trouble trying to cover Kawhi or PG, because that's what he's going to be doing today. That's his responsibility today. One, if not both, depending on who's on the court at each time. But with that said, I anticipate them using him a little bit more. So I'm interested in Covington. May have to do something to tweak his projection on FanDuel. The way it is now, you should probably be getting some on DraftKings. May have to do a little bit more to get. As a matter of fact, I'll check right now. I was only getting like 11%, so maybe need to make some adjustments, but it depends. We have 2 other games to get to where we can maybe find some value or find something interesting. The Newell House, obviously, also an option. Eric Gordon, his minutes have been down. He's been dealing with a knee injury, so I'm not feeling too great about him. But House, Covington, Westbrook, and Harden are definitely 4 players that I want to spread my exposure around and, go Game Stack City with it. Hit that like button if you haven't already. I know I'm doing the shows at weird times and shit. Let's see this. Mike Johan Solo. Bev has totally sucked ass as of late. It's possible he has a good game at his price, but he is questionable to me. Absolutely, Mike, absolutely, bro. He's been very inconsistent. Reggie Jackson's there. They've got Lou Williams, Reggie Jackson, him, Shamet, all like fighting for guard minutes. But again, it's similar to when the Knicks played. Well, this is my mentality. It's similar to when the Knicks played Houston the other night. Elf only ended up getting like 19 minutes. And granted, that's the Knicks. Like, they're not playing for shit. But point being, they did play Frank Nitti a lot. And Frank Nitti is the best defender of all those guys. So, that's the line of thinking. But you're right, man. He's been bad. He's been terrible since coming back. His usage has fallen way, way, way below. I'm just hoping he can get a little extra run here. Because of the likes of Harden and Westbrook. He's clearly their best point guard defender. Now, they could simply put Kawhi on anyone they want and kind of just lock that down. But they do have Pat Bev kind of lingering. But absolutely, bro, he's questionable at best. I agree. It's just more of a price thing. Mike also says 91% Harden sounds right. It's tough, right? It's tough, man. It's tough to get away from that, no doubt. Let's roll to the next game, see what else we can find. We've got the Philadelphia 76ers visiting the Sacramento Kings. We've got a 220 total down from 222. The Sixers opened up as the Sixers are actually 5-point underdogs on the road against the Kings. They've been terrible on the road. They're missing Joel Embiid. They're missing Ben Simmons. Without those guys, they're just not very good. I will say this. I'm very interested in Tobias Harris. His usage rates have been phenomenal, taking a ton of shots without those guys present. Obviously, the Lakers were a little bit of a mismatch for them. They got blown out. Foul trouble's kind of been a thing. If he can stay out of foul trouble, that'll be great. But 28.7% usage rate against the Lakers. Only 23.3 against the Clippers, but he did play 41 minutes. 31.1 against the Knicks. So the usage rate is on a rise. He's taking double-digit shot attempts. He is a good shooter in general, in addition to grabbing boards, all that kind of stuff. Sacramento, not a good rebounding team, not a good defensive team. They don't necessarily play fast. But I think that we could see Tobias really get beasted and just fed the ball. And if they're desperate for a win enough, he could play 41, 42 minutes if need be. So I'm actually interested in him from a tournament perspective. I think he can come in a little owned while everybody focuses in on the Houston game. Again, I like the Houston game as well. But when you're trying to find ways to get different, I'll probably have about 180 teams. So I'll probably try to grab me a good amount of shares of Tobias. And the same kind of goes for Al Horford. He doesn't look as well on a projection standpoint for us, but I don't mind getting exposure to him as well. This is a team that has struggled against bigs. Al Horford, not necessarily a traditional big, but between Harry Giles, Alex Len, he should be able to do what he needs to do down there. So definitely interested in him as well. But Tobias is the main one. Shake Milton got into foul trouble against the Lakers. It's a little concerning, seeing as how he's going to go against De'Aaron Fox, but there's still some upside there. There's still some meat on the bone. After that, it gets a little dicey. Alec Burks, for some reason, they traded for him, and they don't seem to want to play him in a serious role. They're playing Raul Neto over him at times. Not really sure what the deal is with him. If you want to take a shot, he was really chalky. Well, he wasn't even that chalky by the end of it, but if you want to go back to that, it's a risk. You know what the deal is. They don't seem to really want to. He did end up getting like 24 or 25 minutes. It just, a lot of it came late, and the usage wasn't even that great by the time he was in there. Furkan Korkmaz, also an interesting option for value. But I think for the most part, I'm mainly looking at Tobias Harris and then Al Horford and Milton. So Tobias on a different level for me, on a different planet, if you will. And again, just a way to be different. I know Philly's bad on the road, but this is the Kings. If there was ever a shot for them to win a game on the road, you'd think this would be it. But we'll take a wait-and-see approach. Either way, I'm interested in Tobias. I don't mind Shake Milton. I don't mind Al Horford. But Tobias is the main one. Got my eye on here. On the Sacramento side, I think Harry Giles, once again, is interesting. He got 27 minutes in the last game. Going up against Al Horford, who's not a traditional center. It's kind of, it's nothing. I mean, if you remember, every team Al Horford's been on, and Al Horford is actually a pretty good defender when he's playing the 4. He's pretty good at covering the 4. When it comes to actually covering bigs, he's just not. He doesn't like to play center. Horford does not. He's said that several times. He does not like to play center. He doesn't consider himself a center. Don't want to play center. 27 minutes for Giles against Washington. Ended up getting 4 fouls. That was a nut matchup, so the usage being at 16 was kind of like, nah. But on a 4-game slate, I mean, it doesn't take much more for him to actually get. He was 4 rebounds away. In the previous game against Detroit, in 20 minutes, he had 7 boards. So he was close. And again, without Embiid, I expect Philly to struggle a little bit more on the boards. So I'm interested in Giles if he can stay out of foul trouble going up against Al Horford. Harrison Barnes is going to play a ton of minutes. Bogdanovich has been playing better. Buddy Hield not really getting a ton of minutes. This is a spot where Buddy Hield can excel just based off the matchup. We know shooters have always kind of done well against Philly. It's just his minutes have been so low. It's really, really hard to get behind that. But unless he was a little bit cheaper. On FanDuel, I don't mind taking the shot. On DraftKings, it's tough at 5'9" on this kind of slate. He's priced at the same point as Devontae Graham. Granted, he'll have a ton of less ownership, but he might end up playing half the minutes Graham does. Not literally, figuratively, but you get it. Bielitsa spent some time at the 5. On FanDuel, I think Bielitsa's price is great at $4,900, even if he only gets 28, 29 minutes. On DraftKings at $6K, it's kind of like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You need him to get more than that. But again, you can see it's like on DraftKings, a lot of the stuff is unexciting. It's optionals. There's options. It's just nothing that's really like making you go nuts, which is kind of cool because it's going to make everybody kind of pick their favorites and not necessarily rely on just the soft pricing, because I don't think it's as soft today, at least not in certain spots. But definitely an interesting game that I think will have some lower ownership. Finally, we get to the last game, which is the Toronto Raptors visiting the Golden State Warriors. We have a 223 total. The Raptors opened up -8 and are currently there on the road. Fred VanVleet is questionable. Serge Ibaka is questionable. Marc Gasol is questionable. So we have a lot of injury news we have to wait for. This is the last game going. We may not get this news on time. Game will start till 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So I'll be making sure to have some teams that have exposure to the late game, just so I can late swap if need be. On FanDuel, taking chances could be very rewarding, but it's also going to be very risky because we are waiting on so much injury news. On DraftKings, you have the ability to kind of just, all right, I'm gonna sit back, have a couple teams where I don't load up on that Houston game, and make sure I have some late teams to where I could take advantage, at least for a few players. If Pascal Siakam is gonna play center again like he did against the Suns, he's in a phenomenal spot against the Warriors. If Serge Ibaka plays, he's in a phenomenal spot against the Warriors. If those guys are both out, we want to take a close look at OG Anunoby, who, aside from the last game, has been smashing in his role and playing monster minutes. If VanVleet is in, I like his price a lot on both sides. I know he's been playing kind of shitty, but I'm interested. Marc Gasol is only $4,400. I don't expect Marc Gasol to play, to be clear. He just got officially cleared to be questionable, so I think it's going to take some time for him to really step in. Norman Powell has excelled in this role with no VanVleet and no Ibaka and no Gasol. I would be willing to go right back to him, even at a 6.6 price tag, even at a 5.5 price tag, if I knew he was in that situation again. So again, this is where we're gonna have to wait and see. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson didn't start the last game. If we see the two starting bigs out again, or the two main bigs out again, he could end up starting this game against a smaller Golden State team. Maybe they go to Chris Boucher, who played really well against the Suns. So there's a lot here that we're gonna get at low ownership. It's just gonna depend on when the news comes in, how it comes in. Again, on FanDuel, a little tricky. You're gonna have to take some guesses. On DraftKings, though, just having some teams late, even if you do it 150 teams, man, even if you grab 20 to 30 of them and just kind of leave them in the back. I'm not saying you can't play anybody from the early games, but make sure you have some late players so you can late swap if need be and try to take advantage of the lower ownerships that we're going to get in these late games because of all the injury news. So tough to kind of sort through Toronto at the moment until we get that news. Hopefully, maybe we'll get it by the time we do the Wise stream later at 5 p.m. We'll see. As far as the Warriors go, we know that Steph Curry is expected to make his return. We don't know how much he's going to play. I know he did like the reason they pushed his start time back is they wanted him to do some more scrimmages. He did a G League scrimmage. There was a whole article about how he missed the game-winning shot in the G League practice scrimmage. It was a practice with his own G League teammates, and they were all making it's a big story how he missed the game-winning shot. But he's coming back from a broken hand, fractured hand, whatever you want to call it. So we'll have to. How many minutes he's going to play? I don't know. It's not a leg injury, so as long as he's staying in shape, you would think he'd be fine. We know Steph Curry's usage with the way this team is structured now should be massive. But again, how many minutes is he actually going to get? I'm going to try to dig throughout the day and see what we can find, see if we can get any insight as to how many he's going to play. But him coming back is going to affect Andrew Wiggins. It's going to affect Jordan Poole. It's going to affect a lot of guys, maybe even Damian Lee. Curious to see if Draymond Green plays and in what capacity. So this late game is going to have a lot of low ownership, but it's kind of hard to navigate. The Raptors side could be a lot easier for us to take advantage of, but we need that news. So that's kind of where we're at. Again, like with Curry coming back, it's going to impact usage in minutes. What the trick is to find out how many minutes they plan on using him. That's going to be, where it's at. But on a 4-game slate, you have an opportunity to get some low ownership. Like you want to pay attention. You want to really dig in and see where we can take advantage of these things. You know how it is. Welcome those of you who came up in here. Appreciate y'all. Mike Scott. Okay, hold up. Let me get in here and interact with y'all a little bit because that's what I really like to do. Our boy Mike again says, Shake is my man. There's something about him I like a lot. Recently saw an interview he did. Has a great head on his shoulders. Yeah, Mike, I don't disagree about Shake Milton. I don't disagree about him. I like what I've seen from him too. Paying this kind of price is kind of scary, but considering it's a 4-game slate and we want to get a little bit different, most people are probably going to avoid him. So I'm interested. Jim Campbell says, yo, Mike Scott. Let's go back and look at Mike Scott. That's a valid point right there, my man. Let's look at him. Let's look at some Mike Scott action. You pull him up here. Let's see what Mike Scott's been doing. Yeah, he's been balling, bro. You know what? That's a great call, man, because we have him projected way too low for the minutes he's been playing. 26 minutes against the Clippers. His usage rate was only 9.8, but he still managed to go for 30 DraftKings points at 3K. Then against the Lakers, he played 36 minutes. Again, only an 11% usage rate, but he's grabbing boards. And he's taking his shots. So, you know what? If he's going to get minutes, that's a great call, Jim. And that's why I love doing the YouTube thing and interacting with the YouTube nation out there, man, because I'm going to have to make some adjustments now to Mike Scott's minutes. We've got Mike Scott projected for 23.25 minutes. He's played where'd it go? He played 26 and 36. So at the very least, I think we could at least go to like 26 and a half, and let's take it from there and see if anything changes. Well, he's going to need a little bit more work to get him where we want him to be. We're going to project him a little bit higher than that. And obviously, we're assuming he's going to start it. I'm assuming he's been starting. Let me just double check that before I open my big old mouth. All right, here we go. He did start the last game. So that's how I would approach it really on DraftKings. If he doesn't start, I'd be a little nervous whether or not he's going to get the run. But if he does start, then I'm just going to assume that they're going to do something similar to that. So let's go ahead and raise him up a little bit more then. Maybe we go 29 and a half. We go 29. What do y'all think we should project him for? What do y'all think? Mike agrees. Which Jim says Scott is his boy. Got him 30. Yep, absolutely. I'm not going to repeat some of that other stuff. We don't hate on this show, but I feel what some of y'all are saying. Jim Campbell says, if I was playing one line I would Curry. See, I'm the opposite. I'll probably play some Curry, but that's because I'm going to be doing 180 teams. If I had one team, I don't think I could pull the trigger on them. But I get it. Very low owned. That's interesting. Mike says I would take Mike Scott over Patrick Beverley easily. Yo, based off recent history, I don't blame you. Based off looking at the game logs recently, I don't blame you. Jim says we should project Mike Scott for 30 minutes. I got him for 29.5 at the moment. I think 30 is fair. He played 26 in another game. Well, let's see. Did he start that other game? Because if he didn't start that game and he only got 26 minutes, that could be telling. It was against the Clippers too, right? That was a little bit of revenge action too. Josh Richardson was in that game, so he didn't start. That's a great point. That's a great find, guys. Jim, Mike, y'all two in there kicking it with me? Great find. Because in that other game where he got 26 minutes, Josh Richardson got hurt that game. So Josh Richardson played the first quarter. If Mike Scott started that game, and in the second half, Scott played like a starter. He played most of the third quarter, played the beginning of the fourth, and then he closed the game. So that's 2 straight games where they have him on a court closing. 2 straight games they had him closing. That's big. That's a really good point. So maybe we do want to be a little bit more aggressive on a slate where we don't have a ton of value. If I go 30.75, let's get him as close to 6x as I can without projecting him for any minutes. That's kind of ridiculous. So we put him at this point. Now he's at 5.7x. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I like it. I like it. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to y'all. Oh, you said would. Oh, Jim Campbell says he wouldn't play. Yeah. Jim, I completely agree with you. I wouldn't play Curry on one team, but MME, yeah, I'm going to work some in. Boy Jeffrey says, you think Grant continues to play more minutes than Millsap, but Millsap been scoring points. Yeah, it's a tough ask, man. Millsap was they're weird with him. Either way, at the moment, Millsap typically is more aggressive on the offensive end than Grant. On a big slate, I would say there's no need to go to Grant. I would say we could probably don't play either of them. We could find something better. On a 4-game slate, you can't really ignore anything because any little bit is going to get you somewhat of an edge. You know what I'm saying? So, Jeff, I like what you're thinking, but I'm always going to go with the player who has the higher usage rate. So let's actually look at that. Millsap, right? So we're talking about Millsap. 26 minutes against Golden State, 24.3% usage rate. It's not always like that. Against the Clippers, he played 21 minutes at an 8% usage rate, but usually it's a little higher. Let's compare that to what Grant normally does. Grant's usage rate, it's not terrible, actually. It's not that different. But I still think I prefer Millsap just because he's more aggressive on the offensive end. Grant plays well when Millsap's out, but when Millsap's in, he's just got a really low floor. Millsap does too, but again, I feel like the usage is higher more often for Millsap. But I don't hate the idea. Again, if you want to try to be different, take some shots, I'm all about it. What else we got here? Mike says, thank you, sir. I don't watch this show, but you respect the chat, unlike Asimo. You know, one thing, listen, I've been doing this, believe it or not, we've been doing this before Asimo was around. We had a little peak. We had a bunch of people. We were having a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I went through some personal hardships and had to step away from a few months, and it really took a hit on our channel, really took a hit on our company in general. But one thing I've noticed, like I rarely did solo shows, and solo shows is something you kind of got to get used to. But I rarely do the solo shows, but since I've been doing them, the chat is really it, man. Talking to y'all and just getting some ideas. Like we always talk about how it's a community. You guys are a part of the community, right? It's not. I'm not just gonna say I'm here to give you guys advice. And for me, it's all about it's a community, but you're just gonna listen to me talk. That's not really a community, right? Now we don't get to interact as much. Check out our flagship show, which is the Wise Stream. We started first hour is at 5 p.m. with me doing an updated game by game. The second hour, we bring on Paulie. Sometimes we bring on a guest, and we take you guys up into lock to make sure you're informed with the news. So on that show, I don't get to answer as many questions as I'd like because number one, I'm interacting with another person on the show, and number two, we're literally building our team. So I'm crunching my teams up, tweaking my projections for people who subscribe to WiseTake.com who use our projections and cheat sheets, which the cheat sheets are tied to the projections. So when I update the projections, it automatically updates the cheat sheet. So You know what I'm saying? But the point being, I'm not trying to get off on a tangent here. We're done with the breakdown. I just wanted to give y'all a shout out. Mike, David, you've been in there. Jim Campbell. My last name's Campbell, but mine is Campbell, like the soup. But anyway, I appreciate all you guys in there. I'm going to get out of here. We will be back later on at 5 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. Those of you who are new, please hit that like button. I really appreciate interacting with you guys. I'm looking forward to see what you guys have to say later. We'll see what news comes out. But anyway, just for you guys coming by, checking out the channel, I appreciate y'all. Charles Walker, what's up, man? Good to see you. Hit me up in Slack so I can make sure you're squared away. But we're going to get up out of here. Hit that like button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. Allows us to continue to do dirties. That's what we do. You guys will learn the lingo we use around here. Doing dirties, dropping sevens is what we do. If you don't know what it means, you're not alone. With that said, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, I appreciate all y'all. I really do. And as always, good luck.